What if the world's wealth could be paralyzed by a single dry lake or a 300-meter-wide canal? Today, the veins of global civilization are clogging, and the consequences are far more terrifying than just a delayed package. How is geography holding the world hostage? A single narrow passage on a map can measure less than 30 kilometers wide. Yet through 24 of these geographical bottlenecks, the global economy concentrates its absolute survival. While some argue 90% of all global commerce depends on just a few channels. The real danger is a highly clustered system of trade. Directly, these 24 corridors route $192 billion in trade every year. But the true threat lies in a powerful multiplier effect. Every single dollar of maritime trade generates $1.80 of economic exposure as it traverses these primary arteries. A disruption in one corridor ripples instantly through food, fuel, and global capital. The modern world runs on routes it cannot replace, starting with a legendary gateway whose entire structural capacity now rests on a vanishing source of fresh water. The engineering of the Panama Canal relies on a basic mechanical reality. It functions as a gravity-powered bridge rather than a sea-level cut. Between 1904 and 1914, builders constructed the massive earthen Gatun Dam, trapping the Chagres River watershed to form Gatun Lake. This artificial reservoir sits 26 meters above sea level, acting as the canal's primary water storage basin. Every time a vessel crosses the isthmus, the Panama Canal Authority must release approximately 200 million liters of this fresh water directly into the ocean to operate the gravity-fed locks, raising ships 27 meters above the sea. Sovereignty over this waterway shifted in 1999 following the Torrijos-Carter transition, but the physical constraints of the geography remained absolute. The canal cannot run on salt water. It depends entirely on tropical rainfall. When drought strikes, Gatun Lake shrinks, triggering immediate operational cuts. To protect the remaining water, the authority must restrict maximum vessel drafts, forcing large ships to carry less cargo and reduce daily transit slots. Even the $5.2 billion expansion in 2016, which added larger Neo-Panamax locks, served only as a capacity response. While the new system introduced water-saving basins that recycle 60% of the water used per transit, it did not eliminate the canal's total reliance on a finite watershed. To secure the canal's future, planners are studying the construction of the Rio Indio Reservoir, a $1.6 billion project designed to supplement Gatun Lake. Yet engineering new reservoirs offers only a temporary shield rather than a permanent cure. Climate models project a 10 to 15% decline in watershed runoff by 2050, turning seasonal droughts into a permanent operational ceiling. As the physical limits of this freshwater system tighten, global logistics faces an unresolved crisis. When the water runs dry, who will absorb the cost of a bottlenecked world? A sea-level trench cutting through 193 kilometers of Egyptian desert serves as the shortest maritime bridge between Asia and Europe. This narrow corridor routes 12% of global trade. But its physical simplicity conceals extreme geopolitical volatility. In 1956, Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser nationalized the waterway, proving that controlling the canal provided immediate political influence over the West. Today, modern disruption takes different forms. In 2021, the container ship Ever Given ran aground, blocking the channel for 6 days and halting nearly $10 billion in daily trade. This single incident revealed the fragile mechanics of high-volume maritime arteries. Beyond accidental blockages, the corridor faces rising security threats. Proliferating anti-ship missiles, active piracy, and surging war risk insurance premiums are turning the Red Sea approaches into a contested zone. As states deploy naval escorts and private security to defend their cargo, route access is increasingly weaponized. If this instability continues, it remains uncertain which opportunistic actors are best positioned to capture the trade flows of a fractured global order. A single cargo ship departing Shanghai for Rotterdam must alter its course by 9,000 kilometers to round the Cape of Good Hope, a detour that completely alters the economics of global shipping. For a standard container vessel on an Asia to North Atlantic route, this diversion adds 10 to 14 days at sea. This delay is not a simple linear extension. It is a compounding operational drain. Every extra day on the water consumes up to 40 additional tons of fuel, while vessel charter costs, crew wages, and capital depreciation accumulate continuously. Moreover, longer transits trap valuable cargo in floating transit, freezing billions in working capital. This disruption breaks the delicate mechanics of just-in-time manufacturing, where factories operate with minimal inventory and depend on precise delivery schedules. As shipping lines pass these rising operational, insurance, and charter expenses down the supply chain, the entire global market absorbs the shock. The resulting financial friction produces massive macroeconomic consequences. Direct annual losses from these maritime disruptions total approximately $10.7 billion. When combined with an additional $3.4 billion in freight rate inflation, the total economic burden reaches $14 billion annually. Rerouting acts as a powerful shock amplifier that directly inflates the price of everyday goods across continents. As the heavy financial toll of this southern detour becomes unsustainable, global powers are refusing to simply pay the tax of a broken shipping system. Instead, they are turning their focus to a highly strategic, freezing frontier, where geopolitical rivals are preparing to bypass traditional maritime corridors entirely, setting off a quiet struggle for control over the ultimate geographic shortcut. At 77 degrees north, a single frozen bottleneck in the Vilkitsky Strait remains locked in ice for most of the year. This is the gateway to the Northern Sea Route, a passage skirting Russia's Arctic coastline that promises to slash transit times between Europe and Asia by up to 40%. But this icy corridor is no frictionless shortcut. It is a highly conditional arena governed by strict state control. The Russian state corporation Rosatom regulates navigation, deploying an expanding fleet of nuclear-powered heavy icebreakers, including the massive Arctica class, to carve pathways through the flows. In 2018, China integrated this route into its global strategy under the banner of the Polar Silk Road, aiming to secure an alternative shipping artery. Yet, the physical realities of the far north resist easy commercialization. Beyond the brief late summer navigation window, the route lacks deep water ports, reliable satellite communications, and adequate search and rescue capacity. Instead of merely bypassing southern bottlenecks, this opening frontier has prompted Russia to reopen dozens of former Soviet military bases along the coast. The race to dominate this melting corridor is turning a commercial shortcut into a contested security zone, raising a critical question. What happens when a trade route becomes a military front? A concrete berth in the Greek port of Piraeus now dictates the speed of cargo moving into continental Europe. This terminal, along with the coastal docks of Gwadar, draws a new map of geographic influence. As climate stress and instability choke traditional waterways, global power belongs to those who control the detours. Land-based alternatives like Eurasian rail networks and the Middle Corridor through Central Asia are no longer secondary options. They are strategic assets. Heavily maritime-dependent nations face immediate exposure to blockages, while corridor states and port investors gain formidable negotiating power. This fragmentation is turning trade redundancy into a primary shield of national security. Yet, as nations rush to lock down these overland escape routes, a silent race is gaining speed to control the final, unmapped corridors of the global economy. Today, global power is redrawn by physical geography. As vital maritime arteries constrict, nations must adapt or face economic isolation. The map is shifting, and the struggle for control is just beginning. Which bottleneck will break next? Let us know in the comments. Almay.